Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we are going to be talking about managing your firm. So first, I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Laura Redmond, and I'm one of the creators of Aero, and we have used Aero in our accounting firm outside of Aero Workflow, which is a separate company. I run an accounting firm, and we've been using Aero in our firm since 2010. So one of the driving factors, actually, of creating Aero was this gut need to know, what the heck is going on? Are we completing all the work we need to get done today? Has anything fallen through the cracks? You know that feeling. I'm sure that you know what I'm talking about there. So you guys have been working through setting up your firm, setting up your procedures and your templates or your checklists, and setting the recurrences on them, and really mapping out step by step all the work that your firm will do. And then also we had a user session on doing the work in Aero and what your staff see, and then even using Gmail integrated with Aero. So at this point, you're probably set up, and I'm going to take it from here to talk about managing. You've probably set up your firm in Aero, and staff are using their Aero lists to perform their work. And so now you've got this data entered, and you can watch it. And so that's kind of what we want to go over today and look at just some of the key areas. So here I am. If you can see my screen, I'm logged into Aero as Robert. This is our demo account. And the first place I want to take us, we're going to kind of, in today's session, we're going to kind of live over here in this manage menu and look at some of the things that managers see. Now, remember when you set up Aero that when you invited your team, your staff, to have access to Aero, you have different security levels. And so not everyone necessarily has access to the manage menu and to some of the things that you can do over here, like creating arrows and editing arrows and changing things about the data from the management level in Aero. So this is for managers and up, today's session. So I'm going to come here to the manage menu, and let's start at the first one, the manage dashboard. This is really that bird's eye view of what's going on. From here, we can drill down into more details. Anything more we want to see, we can drill down from here. So this is kind of that top level view of what's going on in the firm. And here I can see that I've got 6 tiles on the screen. First of all, I've got this Aero tile, which is telling me some information about our arrows. And again, just to reiterate, we identify an arrow as an activity that tracks time and gives tons of resources to get work done efficiently. So arrows are, use whatever word you like, activity, work, to-do list, task, whatever. That's what we're calling an arrow. And so here I can see that as of this moment that I clicked onto the screen, there are 24 that are due today. They may have been due yesterday and not finished, but as long as they're due today and before or earlier, and they're not completed, then they're going to show here. So 24 things are due. 7 of them are overdue, so probably were from yesterday or earlier. 4 of them are being worked on right now by your staff, and I love this. I love to peek in and see what's everybody doing out there. So this is one of my favorite buttons. And 5 of them are deferred. So something has caused your staff to put it on hold. And that doesn't always mean it's urgent, but it could be. That may just mean that they put it on hold because it's time for lunch, and they're going to come back in the afternoon and finish it. So you can drill on down into any of these buttons and see what's going on. So if we wanted to drill into deferred, we're going to get a grid, and I'm going to come back and go into a little more of this in more detail in a little bit. But just to point it out, I can drill into the deferred arrows. These are just arrows that are due as of today that have been put on hold. So these are deferred, and I can read why they are. And if it looks like something I need to step in, I can as a manager. Otherwise, they may be just fine to be deferred. So on any of these, you just drill in. If you want to go see what are the 7 that are overdue, come in here and look at why they're overdue. So this one's overdue, but someone's working on it right now. Lucy's working on it, so it's moving along, right? Okay, going back to Manage Dashboard, or of course I could hit the back arrow. So that's the arrows tile. The next one is arrow types. So maybe I want to just know something about the top types of work we do. So depending on how you set up your firm with the types of services that you provide, the top 3 with open arrows right now will be showing here. So if you do AP, payroll, anything like that, those top 3 are going to be showing. So if you want to see all the AP work right now, you can drill into that and you'll see that this is all AP work. See, the arrow type is AP on all of these. The next section is, and again, you often come to this screen either with something in mind you're looking for, and so as I go through each tile explaining what it's about, then you'll know when you come here which tile to go drill into. Or you're coming here to just sort of see if there is anything you need to look into. So as I explain each tile, you'll know how to sort of read these. This next tile is about projects. So projects are groups of arrows or groups of master arrows. And you know, master arrows just mean that it is an arrow, it's an activity that has recurrences on it. So projects are a great way to group together. For example, if you're doing CAS, client accounting services, monthly bookkeeping, controller work, that sort of thing, you may have several master recurring arrows for accounts payable. You might have a recurring task for one of your staff, a clerk, to enter bills every week or every other day, whatever the frequency is. And then you may have another task for somebody to work on requesting and collecting W-9s every month. And you may have another task for the controller to pay bills every week. You know what I'm saying? They all might be related to AP. So you could group all of those different arrows, and they all have different steps and probably different recurrences. So you could group all those into a project called Client A AP. Or you may want all of the work that you do for a particular client. Maybe you want to group into one project called Client A Monthly Client Accounting Services. However you want to group these. So projects, that's just an overview of what projects are. So then you can come in here and drill into projects by these different variables. So I'll drill into projects and show you. Here we're drilling into projects by client, so I can see each of these. Here's a client where I've got a couple of different projects. And today is not all about projects, but just to give you an overview, if I drill into a project, then I can see, I picked a project with no arrows, didn't I? I'm going to drill into a project that has arrows on it. You can find all of the arrows, which are the one-time arrows, or all of the master arrows, right? So the master represents the parent, has the settings for all the recurrences, and the arrows, these are all the one-time or the occurrences of the masters. So again, a project is simply a group of arrows or recurring arrows. And here's a way to drill into them to see whatever it is you're searching for. Okay, the next tile is clients. This one, similar to arrow types, is showing the number of open arrows for clients, and the top 3 with the most amount of arrows that are open right now are showing here. We'll go and look at the whole grid of open arrows and show you that you absolutely can see all your clients' open arrows, grouped by client. But this is, again, a bird's eye view. These are the most, right? So you might want to drill in and see, you know, this may say 4, or what if this said 15? It's your clients with the most arrows going on today assigned to, doesn't matter if it's one of your staff or a bunch of your staff. The top 3 are going to show here. So you can click and drill in, and this is going to be all of the arrows that are assigned to different people for this one client, San Luis Obispo Lab Supply. Okay, so that's this tile. And you can see this managed dashboard is just giving you different ways to splice that information from different viewpoints, depending again on what you're looking for. Staff time. Now you all know that as your staff are working on their steps, checking things off, getting their work done in Aero, it's tracking their time. So this tile is going to take us to look at all of the time entries that have been logged. And so just sort of find which one you're looking for. If you want to go look at all staff time this month, you can drill right on in there, and it is grouped by each user, and it'll show you their hours so far for the month. Okay, we're going to circle back around to all that in a little bit. The final tile here is called KPIs, Key Performance Indicators, and we've got 2 KPIs, project costing, and we'll come back and do probably a whole nother session on these. Project costing is gonna, remember I was talking about projects before? I'll just drill in here. Project costing is, this is in no way integrated to your QBO general ledger and revenue accounts. This is not what that is. This is just a tool, a place for you to use to enter whatever dollar amount you have associated to this project. And the project may be a whole big group of arrows, right? It doesn't have to be one task, right? A project is a group of arrows. So you put some dollar amount on it that represents the revenue that you are expecting to get. And then Aero is tracking all of the time that keeps happening, that keeps occurring on each of the arrows that are in this project. And Aero, remember, I'm going to jump screens for a second. Remember when you set up your team members, here I'm going to go to a second tab and remind you that when you set up your team members, you associated some cost rate for, you know, how much they cost, probably their hourly rate burdened with tax, workers' comp, whatever number you think represents a good general cost for you. Again, this is not tying out to any exact general ledger or P&L. So Aero, but Aero has that information, and it can calculate all the time that each of those employees that worked on an Aero that is in this project grouping, it's going to show that to you here. That labor, it's calculating that. And so then it, of course, subtracts that from whatever revenue amount you put on it, and is showing you your profit and your margin. So really, really fun, cool tool. And if you guys want, we'll dive into that one on another session. Another KPI we've got here is the master arrows. And this is another neat tool. Remember, you set up manage your master arrows over here, but if you drill down into master arrows from this manage dashboard where I went to the KPIs tile, you'll get this other grid that's showing this handy dandy new column called average. And this is watching every, well, I don't want to scare you, it's not watching you, but it has the ability, it's got this data now, right? Every time, let's say Robert does this task to pay bills for A1 printing that you set up as a master recurring arrow, and let's say you set Robert up to do it once a week. Well, every time Robert finishes and completes that arrow, whether he sat down and knocked it out all in one sitting, or whether it took him the morning, the afternoon, and he deferred it again, finished it the next morning, doesn't matter. That counts as one instance. And it's going to total all that time, divide it by the number of instances, and it's going to track that average for you. So you can start to watch how long on average it's taking Robert to do this work for this client, and then you can start to even aggregate some of these. You can filter and change these grids around and look at how long does it always take Robert to pay bills, or how long does it take everybody to pay bills. So you start to get a new client in, and you really start to hone in on, you know, depending on the size of the client, you start to get a better handle on what's my resource like. Whether or not you're billing hourly or value pricing, or paying staff hourly or paying by salary, you still have to know how to schedule this work, and you still have to know if you are available, if your team has the open resources to take on a new client. So knowing this kind of information can be really helpful, and we're gathering that. Okay, so that was an overview of this managed dashboard. Now you saw on this dashboard that when I drilled into a certain section, we went down into a grid full of data, and that's all the good stuff. That's the good stuff that Aero's been collecting for you. That's that data. So let's go into, of course, I could drill down into one of these, or I'm going to take you there by the menu just so you realize that these are available from the menu. And just so you feel, this is what we're going to do today, is go through these items here on the menu. So let's go to Manage Aeros. The default screen starts off with any Aeros that are open and due today, because that's what most of us are coming here to look at. But you certainly can change it. We've got a menu right here that will let you change it to look at, say, by user today. Let's do that, by user today. So let's say Barb says, I'm sick, I have to go home, I can't finish my work for the rest of the day. You can come in here and look at by user per day and see all of Barb's work here. And you could click on this arrow, of course, and change it immediately and reassign it to someone else so Barb can go home and get better. Or you may want to come in, so we have at Redmond Accounting, we have a weekly company meeting, and we go over open and due work for the week by company. And we're just only calling out if anybody's stuck or has any questions or issues about what's upcoming, just preparing for the week. So maybe you want to do something like that. Or maybe, like we also have a daily job on our Director of Client Accounting Services. She has a daily job to come in here and look at the open Aeros, open and due as of today, by user or by company, whichever way you want to go in, and make sure that nothing is looking like it's not going to get done today, or just looking for anything kind of wild. So she comes and manages these open Aeros from this screen. Okay, so you can use a lot of the most common ones are right here. And just to clarify again how this menu works, open and due means that all of the Aeros are dated for today or earlier, and they have not been marked as completed yet. The fact that I'm on the by user part menu means that they're going to be grouped here by user. So here I had done by company, but let me show you by user. Now you can see that they are grouped by my staff, Barb, Jack, Lucy, right? So maybe I want to see all the work open and due by type. Maybe I want to see all the accounting work together, or the AP work together, or overheads. Okay, so pick the white part of the menu for how you want them grouped, and then pick which time period you want. Okay, the next thing I want to show you under these white menus is this whole grid. So I'm just going to kind of reset this grid by putting an X in that field so that now I've got a grid of data. And I might want to even, like I may want to say all. So I've got manage all Aeros. Maybe I don't want just today. Maybe I want to look into the future. Maybe somebody has come and told me I'm going on vacation next week. Whatever I have, reassign it to someone else. I'm out of here. So you may want to look into the future, or you may want to look at completed work. So in some cases, you might want to switch the manage Aeros screen from everything that's open and due as of today into like all Aeros, right? And then you can come into this grid of data. I'm going to X out that user header there that was grouping. And now I've just got a grid of data. And let me just go over the options that you have to work with this grid. On each of these columns, which represent a field of data, you can sort up and down. You can click, you can come in here and click the green arrow and click sort ascending or sort descending, but you can also just simply click out here on the white part of this header, and it's going to sort up and down, A to Z, Z to A. You also have the option of changing what columns they're showing. So for whatever reason, if you want to show or hide one of the fields available, you can come do that here. And finally, this is the one I use the most. You can come here and look for particular data. We're finding that the most commonly used is contains instead of equals to. So you can just type, if you're looking for just arrows related to Robert, you could just start typing his name and hit the filter button, and we should only see data here that has Robert, the name Robert in it, right? So now the other option, if I cleared that, I could also, let me step back 1 second and say, those were the 4 options on these green drop downs. Same 4 options on each of these fields across the top of the grid. These are your field headers. So another thing you can do with grids is, you saw me there filter and say, just show me Robert. I clicked on the header, the field name, and I can drag it up here into the turquoise. And now I'm going to group by. And that allows me not only to put all of Barb or Robert or whoever's work together in one place, but I can even get a total for that. So in this case, it's how many hours are estimated, and I can close each user as I look through it. So, and let me go back and say, I can drag multiple fields up here. So I might say by user and then by company. So now I can see what work Barb has. And let's say, okay, let's say Barb is going out of town on next week, and I want to only show arrows that are dated on the 28th and before the 2nd, whatever, or whatever date range you have. So this is the work assigned to Barb, and it's also showing split by company. Barb doesn't have that many, so let's look at Michelle. Here I can see that Michelle has a couple of arrows on this one client, Atoms and Atoms. She's got another work assignment on this client, Blackwater, another one on cherries. So this ability to group, you can put more than one, so keep that in mind. And depends on what you're looking for. Maybe you don't want it by company. Maybe you want it grouped by user and then by the type of arrow it is, because when Michelle leaves town, you might be giving her accounting work to one person, but her payroll may go to someone else who is better at payroll. I don't know, depends on whatever you're looking for here. So I just wanted to show you, though, how to use these grids. And these tools I'm showing you, the green arrow for filtering and sorting the columns, and the ability to pull a column header up into the turquoise to group by. These can be used on grids all over Aero. I mean, you could be working on something on a customer and be looking at their vault, and you might have a customer that has a ton of vaults. We have some that just go on to the next page, and you might just want to come in here and say, I'm just looking for the vault entry for Wells Fargo. So you see how you'll see these grids all around Aero. Okay, where were we? Manage Aero screen. So dig in and use those grids. This is really good data to find whatever it is you're looking for, or to splice that information the way you want to see it. The next thing I want to show you here on the Manage Aero screen is that we're trying to keep a really clean interface on Aero, so we're trying not to clutter up the screen. We also want to call out some of the most popular ways that you can get data, but other than that, in lieu of putting buttons all over the place, look at your screen titles, your screen names, and look for them to have this little drop down, and that is a place to find some goodies. And one of the things you can do from the Manage Aeros screen, which is where we are, is this new batch update arrows, and I love this. Oh gosh, I have lingering thoughts. Before that, let me also point out at the bottom of this grid, if you have a particular way that you like to see your Manage Aeros screen that's grouped or filtered by some specific information, and you want to save that like a little snapshot and use that all the time, come down here and click Make Sticky. And your sticky settings will be saved, and then next time you come to Manage Aeros, it'll be like that for you. Okay, so back up here again, I wanted to show you the batch update arrows. So this is a great way to, remember before we were looking at what if Barb or Michelle or whoever it was goes on vacation. So what if you wanted to do something about it, like go in and change her arrows and give them to somebody else? So here you can come in here and put whatever data you want to filter by. In this case, I'm going to say starting March 28th through April 2nd next week, and let's say assign, well, I'm going to leave it there because I want to show you something. Let's just start right there, just in that date range, and then say next. You don't have to fill anything else out, just enough information to pull the data that you want to see. So we go to the next step, and here it's frozen our selection before. And this section is where we can change things. But before I change things, let me come down here and look at what we've got. I've got a lot of work by Robert. And I may have thought, oh, I've got Robert and Nesta and Michelle. I meant to say only show me Robert's. So, because he's the one going out of town on vacation. So you still can change this filter. It'll take you right back there, and here you can pick Robert. I'll go next. Robert has more stuff, so I'm using Robert now. Robert's the one going on vacation. So now I've got only Robert's work for next week, and I can select all, or I can select certain ones, unselect some, whatever. And then I can change anything about it that's available here on the screen. In our scenario here, he's going on vacation, and we want to change all of his work to Bobby. So I select the team member I'm going to switch it to, and I click to update those. Just those arrows are going to be changed to Bobby now. So that is a really awesome update that also came out in the past month that I am already using. Okay, so the next thing I want to look at, the other thing I want to show you is, I just want to go, these are quicker, I just want to point out, next on the menu is Manage Companies. So this is where you set up all your clients. Now remember, if you're integrated to QuickBooks Online, your time tracking, your entities, customer, vendor, employees, classes, items, well, your entities, classes, and items come from QBO to Aero. Your time tracking in Aero goes to QBO. But your customer is the one that goes both ways. So if you add a customer here in Aero, it's going to go to QBO. If you update a customer here on Aero, it's going to go to QBO. If you've added a customer in QBO, it's going to come here to Aero. So that customer record, and here we are on, we're calling it companies, but this is, if you make them a type customer, let's go in and look at one. When you first add a customer, it will ask you the type, and then you can't change that about it. So if you make it type customer, this is the one that'll go back and forth with the updates to and from QBO. So here is where you can come put in some information about the company, and then you can put passwords in the vault or any other company information, tax ID number. You can set up or add any contacts for them. You might have their legal team or their insurance brokers or other managers at their office that you'll interface with. And you can add them right here. You can click and add a new one right from here, and it'll be associated to this company, so that when your staff go to do work and they're working on some scheduled activity for this client and they need to get in contact with someone, they go to contacts, you know, right there on screen when they're doing their work, and they'll be there in the contacts. And then of course, once you've added one-time arrows and master recurring arrows to a company, you can come here into the company and find them here. And you might want to go work on it from here. And again, these are grids. So you can pull these headers up and group this client. This is your recurring work for A1 printing. Whatever you're searching for, this is another great way to come in and go, you know, I'm thinking about A1 printing. How is our regular recurring work divvied up between our staff? You can come look at it here. You can access all of these master arrows right from here. I held down my control key so that this fired up into a new tab over here. But you could come right into the master recurring arrow and work on it there. That was my team screen before. Okay, so that's companies. The next thing here I'm going to add is contacts. Remember when we were just on companies, you could add contacts there and it'll add it and associate it right to the company. But in some cases, if you are using Gmail and you have Gmail set up to come into Aero, you know that your spam doesn't come into Aero. Only emails that are received from the contacts that you have set up in Aero are allowed to come into your Aero to-do list. And so if you happen to have a contact where you want their emails to come in here to Aero, but maybe they're not associated to a particular client, maybe it's like someone you work with at Intuit or whatever, you could come right to manage contacts and just add a new contact and not have it associated to companies. So we've got both companies and contacts. Projects I sort of dove into earlier. I'll click over there and go to that screen. But again, these are just groupings of arrows and master arrows. So I can come in here and look at them. And remember that these let you, remember on the KPI screen we saw that this project, you know, when you set up an arrow, there's no field for estimated price on it. A project is where you can do that kind of thing. You can put some estimated revenue on it. You can link arrows, associate arrows and master arrows to a project, and then you can use that cool project KPI screen on the manage dashboard to track the burden labor cost against your revenue. So that's projects. And then finally here we have manage time. So if we wanted to go to, let's say, all time, of course it started on time for today as the default, but you could change it to manage all time. And remember that I can click off these groupings if I want to build my own, or I could use one of these that are already set for you that are most commonly used. But I just want to point out that this is the same options you have on the other grids. You can filter and change columns and sort based on the information you're looking for. You can pull the field up to group it by a particular field. And from here you can go look at either record. Now make note to yourself that once time has been recorded, once somebody clicks save and defer or save and complete on one of the arrows they're doing, the time they logged on that work they were doing is posted, and it is associated to the arrow they're working on, but it is not the arrow itself, because the arrow itself may have multiple time entries. That work may not have been completed in one sitting, or that work may have been a few checklists performed by somebody and then reassigned to somebody else, and somebody else finished it. And in a lot of cases, an arrow is completed in one setting and it only has one time entry, but they are two separate records. And the time tracking entry is what goes into QuickBooks Online. So when you come here and look at time, it may be, maybe you hit save and complete accidentally and you want to jump over to time and just open the arrow again and change it from completed to in progress or deferred or something. So I'm just trying to think of reasons why you would want to go into the arrow itself. Or you may want to go look at the time entry, right? Which is how long it took and your time notes that went on it, and whether it's set to sync or not, and whether it's billable. But just wanted to point out that difference between arrows and time. Now we're on the manage time screen, right? Okay, so another option we have here on manage time, which we also had on manage arrows, is this ability to batch update. So when we're talking about time, you may be looking to see if every payroll task that was performed by a certain person, you might want to check on what the billing rate is. Or you might want to see if it was marked not billable or something. Let's say that you want to go through all work performed in March, and you clicked, and you only want to see the ones that are marked not billable. And maybe you just want to review and see, was any of this stuff that should have been marked billable? You have that ability here. I mean, pick the proper fields up top that you want to get the data on, and then just know that you can change it in bulk. You may want to look at a whole bunch of work and see if it was set to go to QBO, because maybe you don't want it to go to QBO, or maybe it was set not to sync to QBO and you do want to change it to so that it does sync to QBO. So those two options are on the Manage Aeros and Manage Time. You can bulk update, batch update. So those are two really cool features there. And one more thing I wanted to show you on the Manage Time. If you need this, we've been asked this before, there is this option to export time. And when you export time, you'll see a little CSV file just downloaded automatically. It's all time in your whole Aero account. So if there's anything for any reason that you need to export that time, that's how you do it. And then you could go through using Excel and filter out some of the data if you need whatever you need it for specifically. Okay, any questions as I've gone along about these tools here on the upper section of the Manage menu? I do not see any questions, and I've also gone several minutes over, so I don't want to hold y'all up if there are no questions.
I think there were a couple of questions, Laura, about the project costing, but really, I mean, I typed in an answer. I think that we will schedule an entire webinar on projects, project costing, progress invoicing. There's a lot of features and stuff that goes on around projects, and so we need to just have a whole session on that.
Yes, good. That's great. That's good stuff. I mean, all of this is the real meaty stuff that is, I mean, definitely it's worth it to be able to delegate to staff and to be able to stop being a bottleneck and give them all the resources they need to get their work done. But the other side that is so worth it about using Aero or using a workflow management system is that information, using that information, those KPIs. So yeah, we'll definitely follow up. I'm glad to hear some great feedback about wanting to hear more about that, so look for an upcoming session on that. But I hope that gave everyone a really good overview of this section of the Manage menu.
There was
any other questions about that?
Yeah, one quick question, just asking if they have access to our demo file. Unfortunately not. This webinar is going to be, it's been recorded, it'll be posted on the help site. If you have specific questions and want to see specific reporting screens, what it looks like with data in it, please feel free to contact us and we can do sort of a one-on-one demo session with you and answer questions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is just one we built. It does not, unfortunately, it does not reset itself. Whatever things I was batch moving around or doing, we have to go clean up ourselves. This is just a database we made.
Okay.
We had a great question. We were on Seth David's Nerd Enterprises Zoom between Wall and Main this morning, and we had a great question that I'm just going to bring up here too, with a kind of creative solution. Some people were saying that they are in the position where they are acting as controller for whatever reason. They have clients who are also, maybe the client has like a warehouse with inventory specialists, or in some way they wanted their clients to be able to get into Aero and do some work. And you know that Aero is for staff and accounting firms to work on multiple clients. But anyway, the solution was presented that you absolutely can. These are people who had clients that were like 10 million and up, and they had lots of staff doing accounting work. You can start an Aero account for that client, and you can have these step-by-steps how they do things, and you can oversee them and still be their controller, right? And give them their work to do if that sounds like, and manage it anyway. That had to do, we were talking about how can they manage the accounting work that parts of their client staff were doing. So keep that in mind too.
Okay. Great. And oh, one more question. Can we filter client list? Yes. Okay. So QBO, Aero, yeah. So show how you can filter your managed company screen to show only active clients.
Okay, so I'm going to come here and say active is true, and
And
I'm going to
filter.
filter.
And then
Oh, I don't think I had any false.
Yeah, I don't think we have any inactive clients in the demo account, but go ahead and then you make that, you click that make sticky button at the bottom, and every time you come to this screen, it will only show you your active clients. Steve, if you want help with some of the cleanup with the QBO clients, please contact us and we can help. We've worked on that before.
Cool. Thank you everyone for spending, I'm sorry I went over a little bit, but thank you for spending time with us today. And look out for the future sessions coming to you. Watch your email box. We don't like to send a lot of emails. You know, we notice we do not have emails shooting out of Aero as far as being a reminder notifications to you. We've been asked that before because we don't believe in killing ourselves with email. Of course, you can send emails to your clients and other colleagues. You can definitely send email out of Aero, but you do get a few emails from us showing up in coming webinars and cool features we're working on. So look out for that stuff. And you guys know when you log in, when you first log in, where am I going?
Just go up to the browser bar, Laura, and delete the dashboard list part.
There's no this. When you first log in, watch out here for upcoming news and new features too. This is when you first log in before you go to your list. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Happy Friday.